Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I'm welcoming back my old friend, Rutanya Alda, and we are going to be discussing a couple of films that we didn't get to talk about last time, maybe like Deer Hunter and Vigilante, a couple others, and the Me Too movement, of course, and a couple other things, and it's going to be a great show. Man, I tell you, I hate doing interviews, though, this early in the morning because of the guy with the weed whacker or the lawnmower, whatever you call outside. It drives me crazy. Oh, it is so bogus. But it should be a good interview, nevertheless. I'd like to announce really quickly, though, that I had a really great time at Silver Scream Fest this weekend in Santa Rosa. Got a great interview with Kelly Maroney, which is up on YouTube if you check it out. And got to see her and Barbara Crampton both signed my Chopping Mall poster. And I got to meet Suzanne Snyder. I should have gotten a picture with her, but I didn't. And I got to meet John Russo and Rico Browning. I got Rico Browning's autograph, beautiful 8x10. It was just a totally radical Friday night. And overall, I heard it was great. So thank you, Silver Scream Fest. It was great doing business with you. And hopefully again next year. Okay, now on to the interview with Rutanya Alda. Hey, Rutanya, it's Tommy.
Hi, Tommy. Hold on just 1 second.
Okay.
Well, how lovely to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
I hope you had a good weekend and in remembrance of your family, and I know how hard that can be sometimes.
Surprisingly enough, it was very cathartic. I didn't really cry. Last year, because it was a milestone year, I think it was because it was that bad that I cried a lot. But this year was much better. Thank you so much.
Well, time does sort of, we reflect on time, and I think it's a healing thing. I don't think we ever forget, but I think we do heal. So, and we do, and I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, one disadvantage I have to doing interviews on Monday morning is that there's always the guy with the lawnmower outside.
Oh God, yeah. I forgot it was President's Day, so I was trying to call different. Different offices. Everything's closed. I thought, President's Day, I forgot all about it. So everybody's home mowing their lawns or whatever. People get those days off. So it's really weird.
Yeah. Well, this is not the right year to celebrate President's Day for obvious reasons.
Well, it is what it is. I'm not. If people in 3 years have a chance to do it again, that's the greatest thing about our country is that we are every 4 years we can have a turnover. So, I'm not one of those people that's gonna. I don't believe in wasting my time hating things. I feel like let's just do the best we can and move on. And let's see what the result is in 3 more years. And if people are really committed, then they have to do it. They have to make that commitment to vote. So, working at the last poll election, it was shocking how many people didn't turn out. So, it's up to us. It's up to us to do what we think we should do and take that responsibility. We have that opportunity. So that, that's my feeling about it. People feel differently, of course, so.
Fingers and toes crossed, it'll be over soon.
The years go by so quickly for me. I'm like, it's another year. My God, where'd it go?
Yeah, me too.
Fly by.
The other night, I watched Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Oh, yeah, I love that movie. Sam was going to re-edit it before he died. He was in the process of adding scenes that had been cut, including some of the scenes with me and Pat and the girls. But he died before he could do it. So, yeah, he was a real interesting man. He became a really good friend of mine. I actually saw him about 2 weeks before, month before he died. He was in New York City, staying at the Algonquin Hotel, and he was directing what is that, Lennon, the other Lennon kid?
Julian Lennon.
Julian Lennon, right. He was directing a Julian Lennon music video, and to get him, he said, I really need the money, and so I'm directing this video, and that's what he came in town for, and he finished it and left to go back. He was writing a new script, so he said, I got a part in this new script for you, and I said, okay, great, look forward to it, and then it was a shock when he died. I was really stunned.
Yeah, I was like,
I didn't expect it. He looked fine. He didn't look like he was, how some people look, I guess sometimes people look really ill.
Yeah.
But he didn't look ill to me. He was like full of energy and vigor and looking forward to his writing, and he always loved to write and see his movies done. But he was an interesting man. He was like, they broke the mold when they had to just, okay, let's break this mold, and Sam is the one. He's the original. Very kind of a frontiersman philosophy. His grandfather was a judge in the old frontier, and he sort of had a strong sense of what was right and what was wrong. And he was he was true to himself. That was who he was.
Yeah, he was in. He worked on Invasion of the Body Snatchers when he was young, and he actually had a small part in it.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just found out recently.
Oh, that's good. That's a nice piece of trivia I've never heard of, so that's great to know. Well, it sounds like something he would do, It was, I don't know. I really miss Sam.
Yeah. And your scene in the movie is my favorite scene.
Oh, thank you, Tommy. It's very sweet of you. We, it was my dream come true to do a Western. As a kid, I loved Westerns, so to walk on a Western set was like, oh my God, it was heaven. And in Durango, Mexico, they built this Western set for us, and it was just wonderful. People on it were great. It was fun working on it. So I was always hoping, let me do one more Western before I die. I don't know. They're becoming very scarce.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you do one. They weren't, when I was a kid, when I came to America, I'd see a Western every weekend. They'd always have a Western on a Saturday double feature matinee. One of the movies would be a Western of some kind.
Yeah.
Loved them.
Yeah, there was so many of them back then. There was
a lot of them.
There was the big studio ones. There was the B ones. There was the serials. I mean, there were so many of them. And also, like with the pirate movies too.
Yeah, you're right. There were a lot of pirate movies, and I remember on the B there were only two theaters in town. There was a bigger theater, Orpheum, and there was a little theater called the B Movie Theater, and they always played the Lash LaRue westerns, and they were fun. I'm sure they were god awful, but I enjoyed them so much.
Yeah, you don't see like cowboys anymore, like talking to horses or carrying a bullwhip.
And it was wonderful. I mean, I just thought they were the best.
Yeah. Do you have any great stories about the Deer Hunter?
Well, the Deer Hunter was, when we were filming the Deer Hunter, I don't think anybody knew it was going to become as big or an Oscar winner. I mean, we were just in there filming it as a group of actors. I mean, the only actor that was well known when we were filming it was Bobby De Niro. Everybody else was just coming up, and so we were just a group of actors that became colleagues, and we try to do the best we can with each scene. And it was a difficult shoot, only because, not because of Michael, he was great, but because of the heat. It was the heat wave, biggest heat wave in years in that part of the country, in Cleveland, and especially. And so we had to wear all these winter clothes, and the wedding dress, we filmed it in a real hall right near the church called Lemco Hall. Mm-hmm. And Lemco Hall did not have any air conditioning. And so, I mean, we had 16-hour days, and my wedding dress never got dry. They were trying to dry it overnight. It was always damp. I put it on, it was damp. So, I mean, that was the challenge of the shoot, was the physical conditions. But everybody, like, kind of, you know, we all pulled together, and Michael was the director, the captain of the ship, so to speak, and they did a lot. We did a lot of stuff in the time that we were there together. So I have nothing but great memories of that shoot and the people working on the shoot. And I absolutely adored Michael Cimino. I thought he was really a pro actor. He treated the actors really well and trusted us. He trusted us because we had to learn those two of those wedding dances that they do. And we went to this teacher one afternoon. We worked with her for 2 hours. Yeah. And she said, you know, I have people that work for 6 months. I don't think you'll ever get this down. You know, it takes 6 months to learn these. So we got them down as best we can, and we practiced them in the hallways of the hotel. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we got to the scene the day after it, or the 2 days after, we felt we had them all down. And I asked Michael, I told him the story, and I said, well, the teacher said, you know, we'll never get it down. It'll take 6 months. And how did you know we could do it? And he said, well, I just trusted you. And that was his answer. So he never questioned that we couldn't. So we did it, and we danced it, and it was exactly pretty much the way, you know, it's done. So it was really authentic. So it was a great time. It was a great time because there was the camaraderie. There was no star attitude. You didn't have to deal with Bobby was just great, and we didn't have to deal with anybody catering to a star's demands and being fearful of a star. It was really a group of actors that came together to do their characters and respecting each other, and hanging out together afterwards on our day off. Of course, not after a 16-hour shoot, but on our day off, we would go and have dinner together or do laundry together. That's what I remember. Donnie Cazale, John Savage, and I would do laundry together at the end of the week. And George Zinza said, I'm not doing it. I'm sending it out. Let the hotel send it out. But the hotel was so expensive that John Savage and Don Cazale and I said, no, we're just going to go around the corner and do it. And then we'd go, while we were waiting for the laundry to finish, we'd go next door and have a beer and just talk and hang out. So it was really nice. I have really good memories of that movie.
Yeah, Christopher Walken got an Academy Award from it.
Yeah. Well, everybody thought John Savage was going to get it. Not us as the cast, we didn't know, but the PR person who originally saw the cut thought John was going to get John Savage but they recut the movie and they recut a lot of his scenes down, and they left the Christopher Walken scenes in, and John Savage's scenes were less. So then the focus came on Christopher Walken, and then he got the Academy Award. He was wonderful in the movie, and so was John Savage. He was terrific. So I think everybody was really good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, great performances. And this movie has become so iconic that years ago, the comedian Jim Norton said in his stand-up that he's so conservative that he masturbates to the deer hunter.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Well, okay, but you know what? It hits home with people who served on. When I went to when we were promoting the film, different actors were sent to different cities as guests. I went back to Cleveland as the guest in Cleveland. And I don't usually like to see a movie more than once because that's just me. But I had to because I was a guest. I couldn't say, excuse me, I'm leaving. So I sat there and saw it again, and the first-time audience. So the emotional impact it had on their audience, I'm glad I stayed. I'm glad I saw it because the emotional impact that the audience had, including men who had served or families people had served, was so heart-rending that it really hit home. It hit home because it's the average family's sons that were sent to Vietnam. It was the working class people that got sent to. The elites all sort of seemed to get out of it. You know, they weren't as affected. But the working class people were the people that suffered from the war. And so several men came up that served, said, I have never been able to talk to my wife about this. I will talk to her now. Or I have never been able. One guy was crying. He said, I've buried my emotions until now. He was weeping openly. He said, but I'm so grateful for this movie. And I think it made an impact on people who are truly the ordinary people in this country. I think they're the backbone of this country. Yeah. And they're the ones that really suffered from this war. So that was the impact. That was what I realized when I was a guest and I sat in the back and I watched people's emotional reactions. And it's interesting because about 4 or 5 years ago, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences had they screened the Oscar-winning films, and that weekend I was in LA. They were screening The Deer Hunter, and so the Academy Theater is very big. I think it's close to 1,000 seats. Yeah. And so they asked me to be the guest again. And so a lot of younger people came in, people in their 20s, maybe early 30s, but a different generation that was just born when the movie came out. And I thought to myself, I don't know if they're going to relate to this movie. You know, I'm kind of wondering and by the end of the movie, they were so affected by this movie. And I thought to myself, wow, this means that this movie transcends generations. Not just the Vietnam generation of people, but a new generation of people. So that was another amazing insight that I had during the screening there, like 5 years. It was like 5, 6 years ago. So it's a movie that endures because I think it deals with the human heart and the human conditions, especially at that time. Well, and it deals with the 3 important things in life, which are of course, the rituals of life, which is weddings and funerals. You know, like we seem to that sort of transcends. You know, the weddings and the funerals. The war was 3 things: war, weddings, and funerals. And so that's the theme. First you have the wedding, then you have the war, and then you have the funeral. This is all sort of something that's intertwined in our collective being. I think it's true of most countries. You know, you've got the love. Even if you don't get married, you've got the love. So that's the marriage. You've got so many wars now going on. You've got the war, and then you have to bury your dead, the funerals, and in between you have, in Deer Hunter, we have this community of people that are really friends, and how their lives are affected, shattered, and changed by this experience. And I think Michael tapped into this, whether he knew it was going to be as deeply as he did, but I think that's something that he really wrote about and put out into the world through his movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful movie. You know, and this was around the time Francis Coppola was doing Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. I think they were up for the Academy Awards at the same time. And if I'm not wrong, I could be wrong, but I think that, we beat out the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because the Apocalypse was also a wonderful movie, but it was a different type of movie.
Yeah.
And and although, it certainly has the following, I don't think it hit the heart as much as The Deer Hunter did.
Yeah.
I think The Deer Hunter was more, it really affected the emotions of the people. And I think, to me, I haven't seen Apocalypse in a long time, but when I saw it, I thought it affected my intellect more than it affected my feelings.
Yeah, and I think Apocalypse didn't get that kind of respect in Hollywood at the time because of the legend surrounding the making of it.
Oh yeah, my friend Jerry Zeismer was AD on it, and I just got his book out of my shelf after I moved. It was a lot packing in my books, so I just pulled it out. And I'm looking forward to reading it. He writes about the apocalypse, making of the apocalypse in the Philippines. So I'm going to look forward to reading and seeing hearing his his insights into the film.
Nice. Yeah. This weekend, I was at the Silver Scream Festival in Santa Rosa, and Bill Lustig was there, and he wasn't there the night that I was there. I was going to ask him about Vigilante, and I didn't get to.
Well, I'll tell you about Vigilante, which he won't tell you.
Okay.
He was never there. He showed up one time on my scenes for like 2 minutes and left. James Lemo directed me and Don Blakely and Richard Bright. Mm-hmm. James Lemo was the one that directed Vigilante.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, time to tell the truth. Also, they still owe me money. All their checks bounced.
Oh, my God.
By the time we got the check, we shot the film so fast, went to the bank to cash it, they all bounced.
Oh, my God.
So I saw Bill, they showed it at BAM, which is a very prestigious thing, the Brooklyn Academy of Music. They show the films from the 80s that they thought were representative of the 80s.
Yeah.
And so it really held up well. I loved the gritty feel of it. But that's James Lemo. That's the wonderful DP/director. And so I asked, Bill Lustig was there, and I said, so where's my check that bounced? And he didn't want to deal with it about paying me. And now SAG has been after the Vigilante filmmakers, for whoever makes the money off of it now, for 30 years. It's close to being resolved. For 30 years, we did not get any residuals on this movie. So I am not a big fan of the people that treat actors that way. The actors are really, that's stolen money from the actors that should have gotten paid. Yeah. Stolen money on residuals. That movie was, when it came out, it was #1 in box office for the first week, made over $1 million. At that time, it was a lot more than.
Yeah.
And then it was #2, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then it was a big hit in Europe. It's in every truck stop across the country, because I've driven across the country like 50 times. I see Vigilante in almost every truck stop. And so they've made money on this movie, but they have screwed the actors.
Wow.
And I'll find out tomorrow if they keep making deals that they're going to pay residuals, not much, but they're going to get something. And so I'm going to call tomorrow and see if they have made the deal. If not, finally, after 30 years, SAG is going to go to court.
Wow.
So that's my feeling of Vigilante. I love the actors. I love the people I worked with. I love James Lemo, who I think passed away. He's not alive now. But he was trying to get co-directing credit for this movie. Of course, Bill would have nothing. He wrote me later, so they wouldn't give me co-directing credit. So he was, it's ugly side of film that you never hear about. So I'm not afraid to say it. They bounced my check. They never gave any of the respect, not just my check, but a whole bunch of people's checks. They never made the checks good. They never paid residuals, and James Lemo was never recognized in his work. So there you go. I'm sure if you ever see Bill Lustig, he will deny it all, but that was my experience. I come from my experience on this movie.
Wow. Yeah, I guess everything happens for a reason. That's probably why I didn't meet him.
Well, you didn't know. If you'd have met him, he takes credit for directing this movie. And he was entitled. I don't know where he was. He might have been out busy raising money to continue it. They shot it on a shoestring. So he may have been out trying to get it financed, which I suspect that's what he was trying to do. But was he on the set when I was there? Never. For 10 minutes on the scene with Robert Forster and me in the hospital, he was there and he said, "Oh, yuck." And he said that to the actress, but before he left, "Oh, yuck," he said they were applying the scars on my chest, and then he left, and we never saw him again.
Wow.
I don't know if it's the same with Fred Williamson. I never had any scenes with him, but Richard Bright, my late husband, was one of the vigilantes. He said, "Well, was Bill there?" He said, "No, it was James."
Oh my God.
What did I tell you? So that's so much. That's that.
Wow. Robert Forster, he's been in a couple of Bill Lustig's movies. I'm sure he had nothing but good experiences with him.
You know what? When you're at a certain level, I'm sure Fred Williamson got paid. When you're at a certain level, they treat you differently, and I'm sure they had they had a pretty much locked in contract. So I'm not saying that I'm not talking about any of his other movies. I don't know, but I'm talking about my experience on Vigilante.
Yeah. Yeah, I met Fred Williamson at a convention 2 years ago, and he was very impressed by my movie knowledge. In fact, every celebrity I meet at conventions are impressed by it. And he had this 8x10 of him in the cast of MASH, and he was like, "Name every actor in that picture," and I did, and he was really impressed by it. And I was like, "Oh, does that mean I get that for free?" He's like, "No."
He should have given you one for free.
I know my mom said that too.
That would have been good PR on his account,
Yeah.
He's I never met him, so I don't know. I have no scenes with him, and
Yeah.
I don't know what his experience was.
Yeah, he was a nice man though. He was very nice.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
And then you played Sean Penn's mother in Racing with the Moon.
Yes, I did. I love Sean.
He's crazy, but he's a great actor.
Yeah, I met him about 2 or 3 years ago when he was in that little film that who's that comedian that did this film? He had seen in the Himalayas with the gun and everything. He had like a supporting role.
It sounds familiar.
He's the son of. He's actually a wonderful actor. He's the son of Jerry Stiller and Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller's film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's film about 3 years ago. And Sean has he just has 2 scenes in the film. He's wonderful. So they were having a little party for the film, promoting it, and so I was up there and ran into Sean, and he was so nice. He took me by the hand and let me into this little VIP section where stars were. And so I absolutely adore Sean. I mean, I don't really care about politics. I'm really not into somebody likes so-and-so, somebody doesn't like so-and-so. I'm not going to tell somebody who to like and who not to like. I'm just not going to do that. So I don't care about Sean's politics. I don't care about this thing. But he is a wonderful person, and I loved working with him. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, Kelly Maroney told me that when they did Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he was in character the entire time. He had to be called Spicoli. He couldn't be called Sean, and nobody really met him until the rap party.
Yeah, well, you know what? We did have conversations we had conversations about movies and stuff at lunch sometimes. So, but he said, can you just keep calling me Hopper, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, sure, Sean. And he was just, you know, it was early in his career. He and Elizabeth McGovern fell in love during the movie. And I think they were together for at least 6 months after that. I would run into him in New York. There was a little restaurant on Columbus Avenue at the time. It's closed, but it was very kind of intimate little restaurant where they weren't bothered. So they were there a lot. They were walking up Columbus Avenue hand in hand, and I'd run into them, and they were just as sweet as they could be, you know. And
yeah, there's no woman any more beautiful than Elizabeth McGovern.
Oh, she was the nicest, loveliest, gentlest woman, just a sweetheart. And so they were a lovely couple, but you know, things don't always last, and apparently, you know, they all went their separate ways. But I ran into Elizabeth after they'd broken up, and you know, I never ask people why they break up. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
But she said she's just coming from the doctor, and I said, "Oh, boy, are you okay?" She said, "I'm pregnant." So it was just a couple of years after they broke up. So apparently, she and her husband. She said, "You're the first person I'm telling because I was just on my way home from the doctor's." And I said, "Oh, that's great." And then they moved to England. I think the person that she married was British. That's why she wound up on that wonderful series. I'm really bad with names, but that English series that played on PBS forever, like 5 years.
I don't remember.
No, it was huge on PBS. It was like everybody with the fashion and everything. It was like she was one of the leads on that series. That I can't remember. I'm really bad with names, but it ran for like I think 5 years on PBS. You know, they would film it. It was like really highly rated at the time, and she was just lovely. She was the matriarch. She was the mother of the kids that were the leads. So yeah. She's lovely. She's a lovely woman.
Yeah. Was Nick Cage nice?
Yeah, he was nice. He was just starting out, and I actually have a script that Nick signed, Sean signed, Richard Benjamin signed, Elizabeth signed their autograph, and they wrote really nice things in it. He was starting out. I think this is one of his big breaks or whatever you call it, because and they were as sweet as they can be. They were just really nice.
Mm-hmm. And Richard Benjamin, he had just directed My Favorite Year,
which was a wonderful movie. I love Peter O'Toole in that movie.
Oh, it's hilarious.
I always wanted to work with Peter O'Toole. He's one of the people I never met, and but I'd see him and stuff like My Favorite Year and stuff like that. I said, "Oh my God, I would love to work with him." But he just was lovely. I've never met him, but Richard Benjamin was lovely, and I loved My Favorite Year. That was one of my favorite films.
Yeah, my high school did it the year after I graduated, and I wish they had done it my senior year. It would have been so perfect.
Yeah, so fun, right?
Yeah.
So fun and crazy, yeah, some good films out there in the past, especially. Really good classics.
So many of them, yeah. You did Apprentice to Murder, which I used to have on VHS. I love that movie.
It was not called Apprentice. It was called. What was it called? One of my weaknesses is titles and things. I remember the experience, but My Long Lost Friend. It was called My Long Lost Friend, which I think was a better title than Apprentice to Murder, because Apprentice to Murder made the audience think that they're going to watch some sort of, murder, revenge kind of film. Instead, it was like a psychological film, and it was. They changed. It was a brilliant script written by the same guy that did that wonderful Julie Christie, Donald Sutherland movie in Venice. Can't remember the name of the movie either, but it's about the killing in Venice.
Yeah.
It goes on. They can't find the killer. The same guy wrote the script. That Venice movie was brilliant. It was so scary. It was terrifying. I remember just having chills after that movie. But The Long Lost Friend was a wonderful script that they somehow ruined. I mean, you don't mess with perfection. Well, the first-time director, this guy didn't really know what he was doing, messed with this perfect script. So it turned out to be a so-so movie. I had a lot of fun making it because we went to Norway. Mm-hmm. We went to Norway, the west coast of Norway, and just beautiful there. On my day off, I went to take the fjord ride up the river, and it was the last day of the ride because it was like the end of October when they shut it off for the winter, and it was like magical. It was like when me and Eddie Jones, the one that played my husband, we both arrived on the flight, and they picked us up, and we had a long car ride, maybe an hour car ride to where we were going, and we looked at the early morning with the mist covering these beautiful green hills and the mist coming in, the fog coming in and lifting. You almost think you just died and went to heaven. It was so beautiful. Yeah. And so, I mean, again, the actors, the crew, mostly a British crew, wonderful people. And Donald Sutherland, I had a couple of scenes with him, of course. Some of them were cut out. But he was very nice. He sort of was a fun guy, but he didn't have dinner. He didn't hang out. But yeah. He was very, very sweet. Had a great sense of humor when we were there on the set waiting, I loved Norway. Just loved it. And I'm sorry that the movie the script that was really so brilliant by this brilliant writer got messed up with. So, those things.
Well, New World Pictures was legendary for taking good scripts or good book adaptation scripts and not making them that good. They did Virginia Andrews' Flowers in the Attic, and they took so many elements from that book out of there, like the incest relationship between the brother and the sister, which was like the essence of the book, and it made a decent movie, but it could have been so much better.
That's how I feel about Apprentice to Murder. It really should have been a wonderful film. The script was amazing, and you get these amateurs that mess with a great thing, and it turns out to be just an average film. So it was a big disappointment for me because I thought, well, this is really going to be good, and it wasn't. It was okay.
Yeah, I think if another studio made it, it probably would have turned out a little bit better. But
yeah, a good director that would have appreciated the story and knew what he was doing would have made it a lot better.
But I like it for what it is, though.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's not terrible. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It could have been great. That's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. And last week I was talking to Diane Franklin, and she was telling me about the new Amityville movie that her and Burt Young just did. Were you offered to do it?
No, I wasn't. I'm so happy for Diane. She's such a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I wasn't in the mix at all.
Well, they got Lady Kazan to play the mother this time.
Well, she's a talented woman.
Yes.
I love her voice, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they give her a song. But, she's a talented woman, so, I'm glad she got it.
Yeah, but it won't be the same without you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. I had my friend, Dana, did the music for it, the score for it. So I haven't really seen him lately he's the only one that I know that's seen it. But he's a very talented man, too. And of course, the original score was done by oh my God, I'm so bad on that. But the original score was done by Lalo Schifrin.
Oh, yeah.
And Lalo Schifrin is, of course, just I mean, I think he really added to the movie, my movie, Amityville 2. So Dana was thinking, oh my God, he said to me, Layla Schifrin did it. I don't know if I said, Dana, I'm sure you're going to do your own thing. But Dana's an Academy member, and he's very talented. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing it when it comes out. I'll support it.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I'm gonna be seeing it too. I just hope it's gonna get a pretty good release. She told me she has no idea what the plans are of releasing it because everything's all crazy now with movies getting released. You don't know if it's gonna be in the theater or it's gonna be on the internet.
Yeah, she's right. You don't know. So you'll probably see it before I see it. So you have to let me know.
Of course I will. Of course. I see on Facebook all the time that you're very passionate about dogs.
Yeah, dogs and cats, all animals, really. I feel that animal abuse is so, it should be taken more seriously in this country, that we need to have more serious consequences, jail time for people that do it.
Yes.
Because I feel animals are such innocence. And people that abuse animals go on to abuse others. When they grow up, they abuse people, and it just expands into other kinds of abuse. So I feel like anybody who abuses an animal is really, really mentally ill. So or just a really angry, awful person. But I think unless our society realizes the importance of stopping animal abuse and putting real jail time on it, I think people just get away with it with a slap on the wrist, and I think that's wrong, and I think it's wrong for our society. So whatever I can do in terms of my voice, and whatever anybody that hears this, if you can be proactive in a very non-time-consuming, really 10-15 minutes is to email your local representatives, find out who's running for office and when they run for office in the fall, and who is actually supporter of animal rights. It really makes a difference. And also, I think my big thing is to have no-kill shelters. The Netherlands has it, Denmark has it. They have no-kill shelters, and they have, neutering programs in place for everybody. It should be free. That you shouldn't have your animal have babies if you can't take care of them. So, and I think neutering is really should be offered to everybody so that we don't have this population of animals that's unwanted. Mm-hmm. It's cruel. So, and I think no-kill shelters, some states are adopting no-kill shelters at the beginning so that we treat our living things with a kind of decency and respect which they deserve, because they truly are the innocents of the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they certainly are. It just breaks my heart when I see that stuff. I remember about 15 years ago, my stepdad's cat went missing for just a couple hours, and when we found the cat, he had been kicked in, and his back was broken, and I was furious. And we took him to the vet, and he got surgically fixed. He came out of it okay, but he died about 6 months later because he was pretty old by that point. Yeah. But I was just mad.
Yeah, it's infuriating, and I think more people are starting to report it when they see it, which I think is a big thing. They don't just walk away. More people are reporting that somebody's chained 12 inches to the tree and doesn't have food and water, and they're left out in the cold. And so I think that the fact that more people are involved or just reporting at the abuse, I think that's a good sign. And I think it's an awareness that people usually wind up murdering, have been animal abusers. So you got to catch this stuff early. Mm-hmm. It has to be caught early, because if it's let to go and these people just walk away with a slap on the wrist, it multiplies and magnifies into things that are much more serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That picture I've posted on your wall with me and the two little puppy dogs.
Yes.
The Bichon Maltese in the picture. That's Mr. Carson. I love him. I wish he was my own. He's my pride and joy. He's my friend's dogs. And when he was only a couple months old, his owner left him in the middle of a highway. And thank God somebody got him. And when my friend bought him, he was completely shaven and very undesirable looking. She almost didn't want him, but she got him on a trial basis. And next thing you know, she's walking through the school that she lives nearby, and all the kids are petting him and stuff, and he's just so loving with them. She's oh, I gotta keep him,
Yeah. If they're given a chance, and especially abused animals, if they're shown any kind of kindness over a period of time, they really respond to it. They're so grateful. And so I'm glad your friends saw beyond the appearances, because sometimes I post pictures on before and after on dogs, and you just don't think it's the same dog.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're cleaned up, they're shaved, they're shampooed, they're given a haircut. And all of a sudden, it's it's a transformation, and I think they feel it too. I think the animal knows it too, because they've been groomed and taken care of, and all of a sudden, it's a little different animal. You can see it in their eyes too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's just the most loving animal I've ever seen in my life, and yeah, there's no puppy I've ever met that's any greater.
Yeah, well, they say, the medical reports coming out now, if you're an animal owner, your blood pressure goes down, you're better health. And I believe it. Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I come home, I'm stressed out, and I hold my kitties, or they come up on my lap or something, and I could just feel my just tension leave my body, and I can feel, this, they want the affection too, and it's just nice. It's really, really nice. It's nice to have an animal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Trying to get myself a service animal, because a doctor recommended it after my car accident that I should get a service animal. I'm trying to get one.
Well, I'm sure that will be wonderful for you, because car accidents are horrible, and I don't know how you wound up with what physical injuries you wound up with, but I was in one many years ago. But it stayed with me. I would dream about it. I'd have flashes about it for a long time, and it takes time to get over it. And I think a service animal would just be a tremendous asset to your life. I feel that way.
I agree. Since October, I've had a lot of female guests come on, and they've been telling me their Me Too stories. Do you have any?
Well, I do, but you know what? I don't want to talk about it. It happened 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what? I made peace with it a long time ago, and I just feel like I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. I feel like what happened. It was a learning lesson for me. Gave me the power to say no, and power to walk away, because I didn't want it to happen anymore. So I'm not going to go and name names that happened something 30 years ago. People change. Some people are dead. But it was 30 years ago, so I'm just not. I've closed that chapter of my life, and I learned a lot from it. So, as a human being, I just say, just go on, and you know better now.
Yeah.
It really kind of empowered me to say, I'm not going to do this. Thank you very much. Goodbye. I would have loved to have somebody shake Harvey Weinstein's penis and say, "So nice to meet you, Mr. Weinstein. Goodbye." You got to treat it with some kind of humor. Otherwise, it's devastating. And and you have to realize I have the power to leave. I really do have the power to leave. And if it happens now, right away, report it right away. I deal with it when it happens. That's only my advice to actors. Deal with it now, here, now. 30 years later or whatever many years later, it's I don't know. I feel deal with it today, deal with it in current times. I think things are changing, but I'm kind of scared that a lot of people who are maybe, it's scary for a lot of men now. I mean, if somebody kisses you on the cheek now, are you a sexual predator? Are you an abuser of women? If they give you a hug, people don't want to touch or kiss people on cheeks now when they meet them because they don't want to be accused of or saying, "Hi, honey, how are you doing, sweetheart?" I know men friends of mine that are in the business that are now afraid to say, "Hi, honey." There are some things that people are scared of now. All of a sudden, you don't want to be accused. It's like that famous French novel, I Accuse, J'accuse.
Yeah.
And what if you're not guilty? What if, it's so easy to accuse, but you have to have evidence. I mean, this country is founded on you're innocent until proven guilty. Now, it's taking a turn where you're guilty, and then you have to prove you're innocent. There's yin and yang here, and I'm not, and so many. I don't want to ruin anyone's life unless I have proof, or unless I really have details, or unless I know. It's just a tricky thing now because I don't know. It's a tightrope. So you walk it. People should walk it very carefully because there's a lot involved with a person's reputation, including Rose McGowan's manager, who did all the right things. And I'm not against Rose. I think essentially she came out and was very brave. But then you connect other people to it. Her manager reported it, did all the right things with it, and then she had a breakdown, and she just came out of 2 years of getting her life back together, and she had a job lined up in the industry, and then when Rose named her as the manager and blamed her, the woman committed suicide because her life was now back on track. But then I'm sure the film company dumped her, although Rose McGowan had nothing to do with Harvey Weinstein, who is the abuser. There's too many other people whose lives can have the potential of being ruined, and in this case it was sad because the woman actually took her own life. It takes, sometimes you have that stigma on you and you can't get rid of it, and it's not you. So that concerns me. That concerns me that by association, other people their reputations are ruined. So it's a very fine line, and I think we have to be very careful. Listen, I'm not defending Harvey Weinstein. He did it to a lot of women.
Yep.
And I'm not defending him at all. Believe me, let me get that clear. I think he needs to be held responsible and accountable. But there's people associated with other people that didn't do it. And if they get hurt, it's not right. It's not fair. So I think we have to be very clear about where we point our finger. Can't point it everywhere because not everybody is guilty. So let's get the really bad guys out. Let's get them out, like Weinstein and whoever else they can prove.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember a couple of years ago I was in a situation like that where me and my mom, we were homeless for a little while, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. This was just before my accident too. And I was living in this home. It was like a commuter home / halfway house, kind of. It was me, 4 other people, and there was a couple attendants there. It was a nightmare. I had my clothes stolen and everything. And there was this one attendant that she started working there about a month into me living there. I was there for 3 months, but she started about a month in. And we got off on the wrong foot from the very beginning. She was just very nosy, and she liked me, and she was just really unsettling. And I was going to work from 4 p.m. to midnight during that time, and I had to I had to have her number and text her and let her know when I'm going to be coming home so she could open the door for me. And one night, about a week or so before I was to move out, there was this one night where she was like texting me, you know, when you coming home, blah blah blah, and this was like 7 o'clock in the evening, and I went off on her. I was pretty upset, and then she got all apologetic with me, and she said all this stuff like, you know, you're a nice person, you know, I like you a lot, I'm just looking out for you, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry that I was mean to you. So I go home later that night, and I go to bed at like 1 in the morning. I wake up at about 7:30. I'm usually the last one. I was usually the last one to get up and leave in the morning. And I wake up, and I thought I was dreaming this, but when I opened my eyes, she was making out with me.
Oh my God.
Yes. And that escalated to her like caressing my nipples and all this stuff. I mean, we didn't do anything, but she was just getting really, really inappropriate, right?
Inappropriate is right.
Yeah.
Well, see,
and
this is, you bring this up. See, this works both ways, because with that woman in California, she's in the assembly in Sacramento, she was a big Me Too mover.
Yeah.
Now she's been accused by several men of really inappropriately, like this woman did, coming on to them.
Yeah.
And the same thing is happening with somebody at NBC when they removed that guy from talk show host, I forget his name, Matt Lauer.
Matt Lauer, yeah.
They replaced him. Now it's up in the news that the two women they replaced him with, and not on air, but in the upper echelon, the two upper echelon, the men were replaced by two. The two women are really horrible to the men. So I think it works both ways. I mean, you have to look at there are some women that can be pretty harass men too, and like in your case, physically assault you is what it is. It's an assault on your body and your privacy, and without consent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it works both ways. It's like a horrible thing. Did you have repercussions from it?
Well, this is what happened. So, okay, there was 2 more nights, same thing, or 2 more mornings, same thing happened, and then that weekend I spent a couple of nights at my friend's place, and then and I find out that weekend that I'm moving out in a couple of days. So the night before I'm to move out, this is good. The night before I move out, I text her at work, and I wasn't serious. I just wanted to see how far she would go with this. I said, hey, I'm moving out tomorrow morning. I was wondering before I move out, you and I can maybe have some fun. And she texted me back. She's like, no, I don't like you like that. And after you move out, delete my number. So the next morning, I'm all packed up, ready to leave. And usually, every guy in that house and everybody was gone by the time I was leaving, but they all stuck around, and they didn't necessarily stick around to see me off. They stuck around to see if I was going to like sexually assault her or something. And so the guy who runs the house, he like had some private words with me. He was like, I heard you were making her uncomfortable or whatever and stuff. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I wake up, she's making out with me, and I'm the creep,
Exactly.
And, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. Did that really happen? I was like, yeah. And so then everything was fine, and, and I never saw them again or anything, but that was just a really scary moment.
It is a scary moment because, you haven't given permission. It wasn't consensual, but I think it does work both ways. I think there's a lot of men that don't report it.
Yeah.
And maybe what this Me Too movement is the best on is that people will now report things. People will be more freer to report things and actually document that, like you have told me with your story, document these things. And I think that might be the biggest plus of the Me Too movement is that you document it, you report it pretty soon, because I think it's important. The sooner you do it, the better. And I think maybe it's given people permission now to do that, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Heaven forbid if that ever happens to me again, I will certainly report it right away because this. I think now, because of all of this, we feel more free to report stuff. I think beforehand we were thinking, well, nobody's going to believe us or this or that. But I think what's come out of this movement, I think maybe the greatest thing is coming out of the movement is that we are now open to reporting it and not being shamed into not reporting it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about Oprah Winfrey's speech, though?
You know what? I didn't see it. I didn't watch it. I didn't see it, so I can't say anything about it.
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, just like everybody who saw it, I was moved by it. But then the next day on Facebook, I was reminded that she's friends with Harvey Weinstein, and there's a picture of the two of them hanging out. And then I was like, oh, God, just another bandwagon jumping, Hollywood bullshit. And I was
he produced a couple of our films, including The Butler.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a screening and an after party of The Butler, and they were there. They were there together. They were partners. They were business. They were partners in several movies. So I don't know. You think, well, if you were a partner with Harvey, well, look, let me tell you something. I'm much too old for Harvey, so I would never have been in the mix. But people knew. I mean, this is something that people talk about when you do hair or makeup in the trailers. People talk. I've heard about him for years. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't something that all of a sudden, oh my God. I mean, it was like, I think it came out, I think Rose was brave in saying so. And then they would say, well, that happened with me and Harvey. But it's been happening for a long time. And I'm sure, I don't know, who knows about people that knew, but I mean, people like me knew.
Yeah.
And I'm not up there with all these big stars. I mean, but I knew about it because you get, if you're in a dressing room, if you get makeup and hair, people talk. And you hear, and you think, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. But because I was never affected by it, I can't say, anything because I didn't have that experience. I was too old. I wasn't 19 or 20 or 25. But that's the thing is that people did know. It was just out there. And so maybe just breaking that silence in terms of being free enough to report stuff. But if you've had any kind of business relationship with Harvey, you've got to say, look, what was it that Quentin Tarantino finally admitted? Mm-hmm. Well, I did know some of this was going on, but I didn't know the extent of it, and I should have spoken up before. Well, yeah, but, that was nice of him to at least say it. But it's just, it's been an industry like this for a long time, going back many years, I'm sure. Yeah. And maybe it'll be a new beginning for the industry, which I'm hoping, in that sense that your assault on your body, the assault on anybody's body without permission, is something that people can feel free to report. And I think that's the best thing that's come out of this movement.
Yeah, I mean, for years I had heard that he was a womanizer and a bully, and it's you hear the name, right? People cheer because he's responsible for producing all these great independent films, but then like when it comes to like Hollywood actors, it's like no comment, you know?
Yeah, because they were part of the silence.
Yeah.
They're part of the silence, and people are interested in their own careers and their own movies, and people are not interested in other people that if it's going to risk them having their careers, and that's too bad. The only woman I really respected that talked about this was this Italian actress. I forget her name, but she said, yeah, I slept with him because I wanted to do that movie because I knew it would advance my career. And I said, she admitted it. Good for her. I have more respect for her. At least she was clear about it. She didn't say, oh, I didn't know. I thought it was the only one. She said, no, I knew. I knew, and this is why I did it. And she said, it did advance my career. And so I don't know. You got to be. It's just a business that needs a little bit of cleaning up. So I hope that this is the start of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's one actress, I won't say her name, but I have a feeling she gave in to him because their first movie was together, and then at the height of their success, they worked together again, and she hasn't spoken out about it at all.
Well, look, it's no secret that people go to bed with people for jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is done, and maybe they won't have to now but at the same time, if that was your choice, then that's your choice.
Yeah.
But you can't cry about it 20 years later. I mean, I don't know. It's like I benefited from it, and I didn't like it, but I learned from it. It's that fine line again. It's saying, okay, let me go on now. Let me go on, and I won't do it again, or I will do it again, or whatever. I don't judge somebody's morals because, like that Italian actress that went to bed with them because she said it would advance her career. Okay, that's your choice. She accepted it. She said, that's fine. It's like if somebody puts the squeeze on you, your career, it's your choice to say, okay, or else it's your choice to say, look, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to go that way. Let me try to make it another way. Mm-hmm. It's such a personal choice. I mean, I'm not going to judge people if they did it for a part. I'm not going to say, oh, you're bad. I said, that was your choice, and you felt at that time maybe you were so desperate that would be your only way. I understand that. I understand that kind of desperation. So, but it's a choice we make. If we can make it clearly in our minds and accept that choice and not berate ourselves afterwards because, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. Well, no, you made a choice, and you either live with it or you just don't live with it. If you don't want to live with it, you don't do that again. So we all make mistakes. I mean, it's not like we're all angels. We're not. We're human beings that make mistakes. What's horrible is the predators. Predator like Harvey Weinstein who preys on people.
Yeah.
That's the horrible person. I'm not berating the women or putting down the women that made the choice to do it. I think being a predator on young women is that's the horrible person. Not the women who succumb to it for whatever reason. It's knowing that somebody wants something and tantalizing in front of them for sexual favors, and then doing it on so many young women was really, really. He's a predator. He's a predator, and he won't get. He'll never work again in the industry. He'll wind up losing everything. He's already lost. But hopefully that he will be the person that all of a sudden freed up a lot of people to talk about it or report it. Being free to report people like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. God, it's
that would be that's the good that came out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a sad situation beyond words.
Yeah, it is. It is very sad.
Let me tell you a couple of jokes, and then we can wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you know the difference between a golf ball and a G-spot?
No.
A man will spend 20 minutes looking for a golf ball.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I told that one to Diane last week, right? And she was laughing out loud, and then she went on like a minute tirade about how true it is, and that
That's true. That's what makes something funny, is because we recognize the truth of it, and so we laugh. Good humor always has some truth in it.
Yeah, she's like, we'll come with a set of instructions, you know.
That's very funny. Thank you. A good laugh is always wonderful. It's wonderful to laugh.
Yep.
I hope I never lose my sense of humor, and I hope you don't either.
Absolutely not. I mean, I do comedy, so obviously not.
So I mean, it's important. This comedy's important, especially at this time of we have, because so much stuff is so depressing and such bad news. It's like you have to laugh. Thank God you're in comedy. People should go see more comedy. Like, sometimes I just put on the old W.C. Fields movies so I can laugh, or something funny that I have and laugh. It's so important to laugh. Laughter is the best medicine.
Mm-hmm. This is probably my favorite joke of all time. A bear and a rabbit are taking a shit in the woods. The bear says to the rabbit, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a problem with shit sticking to your fur?" The rabbit says no. So the bear wiped his ass with the rabbit.
It's very cute.
Yeah, he didn't have time to jump in the river because he died from the stink.
Well, thank you for sharing those with me. I was always the person that let's laugh at jokes, but I never remember them. So I always say, that was a good joke. Now, what was it? Laugh.
Yeah. A lot of people forget them, yeah.
So a good comic is great because they remember their jokes. Or, they remember, or they'll have, I don't know if you do, but I heard that like somebody like Bob Hope had whole jokes on index cards, hundreds of index cards.
Oh, yeah. I used to do that when I was first starting out, but now I just use my cell phone and I like write any joke. I like write in text message a joke, and then I just look at it later when I go up before I go up on stage.
See, you're a modern man. 4x5 cards that's passe. Absolutely.
Well, that's what I did.
Texting is best.
Yeah, I used the index cards. I carried a notebook with me. I remember one time I left my notebook at my former job that I wasn't working at no more, and somebody I worked with actually saved it, and the next time I came in, gave it to me like a couple days later when I realized it was missing.
Oh yeah. Well, we all advance, and sometimes the new electronic age, it can be really wonderful and help us in so many ways. So good for you.
Well, Rutanya, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Oh, Tommy, thank you so much too. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I wish you just the best and bless you and all your family and your friends, and hopefully we'll talk again maybe down the road.
Yeah, I actually would love to do an episode maybe in a few months where we talk about Mommy Dearest.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Well, I just want to plug my book.
Go right ahead.
Mommy Dearest Diary, which not only talks, it's in 3 chapters. The first chapter talks about my early career, my life, people I've worked with, people I've slept with.
Yep, I love that.
and also people like working with Johnny Cazale and people like that who were so wonderful. And then the second chapter is the day-to-day diary of 4 months of working on the film, which is people find interesting because it's not just about Faye, it's about all the people that hairdressers, the makeup people, the tech people that come together to create a movie, which is so interesting. And Irene Sheriff, the wonderful costume designer. And then the last chapter is really my kind of thoughts about things in my life and stuff like that. So it's an interesting book, and I'm going to have a second. I mean, it's still have the first printing, but I'm going to have a second printing soon with lots of nice reviews that I got. So I hope to do that in the next month or so. Put that second printing out, but it's available on Amazon. So that's my little plug.
Yeah, it's a great read. I love it. You know what I love the most about it is that, you know, I'm a guy who loves character actors, you know, and character actors are probably the most private people of all, like, celebrities, you know, because you know, they're just a character actor, you know, but I get to read stuff that I never, like, possibly imagined, you know.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? The joy of being a character actor is that we don't want to be visible. We want to be able to watch people. We want to be able to really see people, and then they see us as people rather than a star who becomes isolated. And you know, there's a tragedy in people that become stars. I mean, people will look at it and say, oh, they got so much money, they have this and that and that. But there is an isolation that happens which removes them from, like me, standing in line at the post office for an hour and talking to people. I said, isn't this great? Because they don't know who I am. They think I look familiar. They said, you look familiar. And I said, well, I've been waiting in this line for many. I come to the post office and wait in line. So, I mean, there is a blessing about being a character actor. I love it. And you don't have to worry about aging. You just kind of age into these parts, which I love. Another 5 years, I'll be up for new parts. I don't know. It's all good. It's good. But anyway, honey, thank you so much, Tommy. And so we will talk again. We can talk about more in detail about Mommy Dearest. That'd be fine, yeah.
Awesome. You have yourself a great day.
You too, sweetheart. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, Rutanya Alda. Ain't she a sweetheart? I love talking to Rutanya so much. She is so awesome and so funny and just informative and smart. Thank you so much, Rutanya, and we will talk again soon about Mommy Dearest and all that fun stuff. If you love this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, add me as a friend on Facebook, and join my Tommy Kovac comedian page. Well, that's all the time we have this time on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.